So, in this video, you'll have to excuse my voice. Got a sore throat at the minute, my voice has gone a little bit, but I'll try to work through it, and we'll show you how to do a wheel bearing on the rear of a Volkswagen CC. So let's get into it. First of all, you have to take all the wheel nuts off and remove your rear wheel. Once you've got the rear wheel off, then we have to take off the Torx bit, which is a T30 Torx. Once you've removed that, then we need to go around the back. And we have an M14 TriStar. So to remove the caliper, which you have to do to take the disc off and change the bearing, you can see the two Torx bits, one there at the bottom and one there at the top. See if we can get a good angle on this. They're a little bit awkward to get to with all the suspension components being in the way. But once you've started removing them, you should maybe not be able to wind them by hand, but if you get the socket, no, these are going to have to be moved out all the way with a ratchet. So it's a fairly simple job doing the rear wheel bearing on one of these. You just need to get these out far enough so that you can move the caliper. That's the bottom one now out. And the top one just winding out. Right, they're both now loose. So ideally, you want some kind of hook to support the caliper. And you may need a little pry bar to pry the caliper off. You don't need to remove the pads. But ideally, it does need supporting. That is now supported on there. The disc may need a tap. Shouldn't need too much of a tap. What I'm going to do is use the rubber hammer and hit the edge of the brake disc, which you can't hit with a normal hammer. So what we've done is got the rubber mallet because because you can't hit the edge of the brake disc with a metal mallet, you'll damage it, but you can use the rubber mallet on the edge of the brake disc. That won't cause any damage. And we're now onto the bearing. So you need a small pry bar, to remove the cap. There we go. Once you remove the cap, you expose the larger torque size, which is an M18. They're very tight, these rear bolts, so we are going to need possibly a breaker bar, possibly the bigger gun. We'll try the bigger gun first, and hopefully this will get it off, and if not, we'll need a breaker bar. There we go. So the big buzz gun, the big Milwaukee, has cracked that off, and the bearing comes off as easy as that. You don't need a press, and the new bearing, just check everything is okay. So as you can see, the end of the sensor's there, but you're not going to damage the ABS sensor. That ring is a spacer which needs to stay on. And just show you that if you put the bearing on without that spacer, then you will be touching the back of that. You'll be touching the back of the ring. So you need to make sure that your spacer is on there, because without the spacer, you will be touching the bearing on the ABS sensor, and that will cause you problems. So make sure that you leave the spacer ring on, slide your new bearing on, and you can see that you've got the correct gap. So we just snug it up, and then the torque setting we are looking for. This particular bolt is what they class as a non-knurled bolt. So you can see one has teeth on it and one doesn't. This is a plain bolt, so it's B. So on B, we torque it to 200 Newton meters, and then lower the car to the ground and tighten to a further 180 degrees. So we're now going to set the torque wrench to 200 Newton meters. Which is there, 200 Newton meters. So that is now torqued. And once everything's built back up and the wheel's back on, we'll take the centre cap out of the wheel, so that we can lower the car down and we can then get the 180 degrees on the bolt before putting the cap on. So when you put your disc back on, you've tightened up your Torx bit on the disc, you've tightened up both your bolts on the back holding the caliper on, which are the M14s, and you've torqued your bolt to 200 Newton meters and then 180 degrees. You're ready to put your cap on. These are a bit fiddly to get on, but once you get them started, you're generally alright. That's not quite snugged up. There we go. And then it's your wheel back on and torque your wheel nuts up, which I'll go and check the torque setting on the wheel nuts, which is 120 Newton meters. So on this vehicle we have replaced the tyre as well. So it's now time to put the wheel back on. So we're literally just snugging the wheel nuts up. My locky gun's set to stop when they nip. Torque wrench for the wheel is to be set to 120 Newton meters. The locking nut isn't in great condition. I managed to get that to torque okay, but I am going to advise to get new locking nuts, and then we'll just double check his own work as always, and then the caps can go back on. And there we go, new wheel bearing.